Welcome to the Pull Up a Chair show. I'm Dr. Krysti Wick.
And I'm Dr. Grinaker.
And we are here to let you in on our in-depth conversations on chiropractic practice, personal development, leadership, and business excellence.
If you are needing inspiration, motivation, clarity, or permission in any of these areas of your life, we're glad you're here. Pull up a chair.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pull Up a Chair. I'm Dr. Krysti Wick.
And I'm Dr. Grinaker.
And we are going to this is going to come right after obviously it's coming after our last week's episode. That was great.
We're such professionals at this.
Yeah, we're great. But we batch our episodes. And so we left a little bit hanging in what we talked about last week, which was this thought process of how much you should be in the business versus on the business and giving yourself permission to kind of figure out what works for you and having seasons of both. And one of the things that I brought up that we wanted to just give a little bit more insight on today is this thought process where a lot of chiropractors, the vast majority of your work week is spent with patients. Like the majority of your energy and your time, you are physically with patients if you are working full time, so to speak, as a chiropractor. And what we hear a lot from our clients is they have all these ideas, or we will give them ideas of how to grow the practice and, system tweaks that they can make and so on and so forth. But they just feel like they are so exhausted and they don't have the time to get those things done. So Jake, what do you say to those people who are like, I'm using all my energy, all my time with patients. I know I need to do these things, but I don't even know where I'm at.
It's funny because before we hit play, we were talking about how we hate all of the the cliche things people talk about, like CEO time, morning routine, blah, blah, blah. Because they're just they're cliche. But you have to find yours, right? So I think the biggest thing you have to do is you have to find when are you the most productive, right? And I think for a vast majority of people, it's in the morning before the day kind of hits you. Doesn't mean it has to be 5 a.m., but it's in the morning before everything kind of hits you, right? And it's trying to find that time to really do your high value things, right? Whether you want to call that your CEO time and that gets you jazzed, then fine, right? If it means you want to do the things of highest importance during that time, fine. If it's things that take the most brain space and thinking, that's the way I think about it. Hey, this takes some actual thinking and figuring. I need myself the most charged and ready to go. Trying to do that after a day of patient care is not going to go well. Because you're fried. You are fried of giving people your time and your energy and figuring out their problems and all of that kind of thing. So you have to find the time to carve out to do that. And it's usually before. So, okay, you have this time. And what I always loved when we were kind of talking about before we hit play is that when you have that big thing you don't want to do, that requires some thinking, it's like this big thing that's like you've probably had on your to-do list for a long time. If you get that done early, if you crank it out in that time before patients or Monday morning or whatever, doesn't it feel like any of you've had this, like everything kind of snowballs in a good direction? Like you at the end of the day, you're like, I did 50 awesome things. And it's because you started with that one big thing you didn't want to do. And it snowballed successfully throughout the day. So my two things on that, and I'd love to hear your take on it, Krysti, but my two things are find that time, right? Find that time when you're most productive, carve it out so you have it, and then do that one big thing.
And I think the time specifically doesn't have to be a certain amount. This is a common question that people ask us. They're like, how much CEO time do you have in your week? It depends on what needs to get done. I mean, sometimes, we're working until 10 p.m. or we're working on a Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Like it happens. And sometimes I get through an entire week and I feel like, oh, I barely had any time to do anything aside from, see patients, put out fires and, just do whatever is required of the next day. So don't feel like you have to put like a marker on it, if you will. It could literally be 30 minutes a week that you just choose to get that really difficult thing at least started so that you can start to delegate some of the pieces so that it's going to keep moving without you driving the entire process forward. That I think is really important. And I just can't hammer home enough what Jake said. This is when I feel stuck, if I feel like I'm not doing enough or I'm not seeing, things evolve in all the businesses as I want, I really look at my planner list and I say, what's the thing that's been on here that just keeps showing up on here because I don't get it done because I'm procrastinating about it because I have a story in my head about how hard it's going to be, or insert whatever here. And then when you choose to tackle that thing, a lot of the additional things that are on your list start to fall off because it's actually the one thing that will create change and momentum in where you'd like to go. Sometimes we fill our planners with a lot of like really little to-do things that aren't actually that important because we love the little dopamine rush of like checking easy things off. But oftentimes those things don't even need to be done if you're choosing to take that 30 minutes or 60 minutes that you have each week or whatever it may be, and you're actually tackling moving things forward with whatever feels the hardest and the biggest. So, an example of that might be like one thing we see a lot of people kind of drag their feet with is hiring. They don't know how to find the right person, or they've been burned a bunch in the past, or whatever it is. And so they just like procrastinate a long time with writing an ad, putting up things, interviewing because they'd rather just do it themselves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. A lot of that is just story. And so when they choose to just like tackle the problem, get the help they need to look at it from a new perspective, and actually do the work required to change the end results of that process, then a lot of other things that might be feeling like they're weighing them down on their to-do list are just going to start taking care of themselves. So
You
it's a
got it. The other thing that I was sharing with that student, I just actually heard this on a podcast recently, but they were talking about the idea of sometimes when you create too much time, you drag out the things that need to get done. And you basically take a 2 hour window to get something that could have taken 30 minutes if you gave yourself a 30-minute window. Right. So I heard this in relation to people when they schedule meetings. Sometimes they'll schedule 18 minutes for a meeting. Well, what does that do? It creates a sense of urgency to where it's like you come to the table right away to like figure it out and get, hey, we got 18 minutes. We got to get this done. Sometimes you can trick yourself with that too. Is that like, if you need to get that big thing done, you may not need 4 hours. You may need 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I love what Krysti used that example. We'll keep on that example of, I need to get this ad written, and get this out there on Indeed or whatever for a CA. Like, you probably don't need 2 hours for that. You probably just need a very dedicated 30 minutes and just rip it out and get it out there. You're gonna feel much more accomplished. You won't drag your whole day into it. So also make sure you guard your time and schedule accordingly there, because sometimes if we give too much time, I've done it. I have 4 hours to do something and I end up staring out the window because I can't figure out the first step to do for it. Sometimes you just need to compress time to actually make yourself to take action sooner too.
And the last thing we'll share of like why this is so important, if you are still actively in patient care, I'm going to say at least, 15 to 20 hours a week or more, you're actively in patient care. That obviously is a big chunk of your work week and your energy and all of those things. And I hear constantly from chiropractors how hard it is for them then to go home and actually like shut it off, like shut their brain off, be physically present with their family. They feel guilty because they know they have all these other administrative things that keep piling up that they're not doing. When you choose to make this a priority, even in as little as 30 minutes a week, you're going to create more productivity so that you can go home and be physically present, which ultimately, like, that is the most important thing. Like, we would never want you to give everything you have to your patients, because your family deserves just as much, if not more, right? Let's be honest, of your attentive, and we also want you to feel like you have permission to rest and recharge. And actually, like, it's totally okay to go home and read a fictional book and, play a game with your family and not feel like you have to be thinking about all this super long to-do list at the office of what's going to happen and how am I going to move that forward. So really being proactive on the front end about picking the time that you can get the high return things accomplished is going to actually help your quality of life in the whole big picture, so that you can rest, you can recharge, you can be even more effective than the following week, and you don't have to sit at home and like be spinning about all of us have been there, right? As practice owners, like you worry so much about all the things that need to get done, and then you end up not even being there for the things that matter.
And I really think at the end of time, and when I get the most upset with myself, it's when that happens, right? When I'm physically should be present with my family and I'm somewhere else, right? And if you can do this better, if you can carve out time in your productive time, shrink time, do the big things, I promise you'll be able to sit there with your kids and enjoy it more because you won't be having all this stuff in the back burner. So get after it, get to it, and make sure that you're crossing off these big things early, and you'll be better for it in the long run. We promise.
We'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Pull Up a Chair Show.
Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening to the show on your favorite platform, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.
If you found value in today's episode, please share it with a colleague. We would be honored.
To connect with us, you can find us on IG at The Pursuit Kairos, or you can email us at connect@thepursuitkairos.com.